Moving on to disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Council? No one? Councillor Dunn?
Through you, Madam Mayor. I had a pecuniary interest, meeting date April 23rd, 2019. I am declaring a pecuniary interest on the agenda item 10.3 regarding CAO report, security deposit, building bridges, Erie Shores. My pecuniary interest is direct. My pecuniary interest relates to myself, and the nature of my pecuniary interest was that I'm a member of the fundraising committee for the bridge, building bridges.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Moving on to approval of council minutes, and we'll start with the minutes of the special council meeting, the budget, held on February 19th and the 20th, 2019. Moved by Councillor Jacobs, seconded by Councillor Wilkinson. All in favor? And that's carried. And then there are the minutes of the special council meeting, and that was regarding workplace violence training held on April 9th, 2019. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Thiessen. All in favor? And that's carried. The minutes of the council meeting held April 9th, 2019. Moved by Councillor Wilkinson, seconded by Councillor Dunn. All in favor? And that's carried. And then lastly, the minutes of the council meeting held April 23rd, 2019. Moved by Councillor Hammond, seconded by Councillor Thiessen. All in favor? And that's carried. And then I need to know, was there any business arising out of those minutes? I see nothing. And then we'll move on to public meetings, and we're starting with the public meeting to consider combined consent and zoning bylaw. And before we start with, go ahead and have a seat, Danielle. We'll start with our Solicitor Ruth Orton. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to read the process to be followed for each application under the Planning Act. This is for the public's information as well as council's information. Firstly, administration will present the report. Next, council will be asked if it has any questions of administration. The mayor will ask if the applicant or his or her agent wishes to speak to the matter. Council will be asked if it has any questions of the applicant, agent, or administration. The mayor will ask if there is anyone from the public that is present with an interest in the application to indicate so by raising their hand. Individuals with an interest in the application will be asked to proceed to the podium, provide their name and address council with their comments, concerns, or questions. Council will be asked if it has any questions of the individual or of administration. Council will be asked what action it wishes to take with regard to the application. Anyone who wishes to receive notice of council's decision to pass a bylaw related to a planning application must make that request of the clerk of the Corporation of the Municipality of Leamington. Information on council's decision to pass a bylaw related to the application being considered this evening will be published on the municipal website. Please note that requesting a copy of council's decision to pass a bylaw does not satisfy the requirement to maintain appeal rights to the local planning appeal tribunal of any decision of council. A person or public body must make an oral submission at the public meeting to make a written submission to the council, or make a written submission to council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Leamington before a decision is made in order to maintain appeal rights to the local planning appeal tribunal.
Thank you, Ms. Orton. If I may borrow those instructions so I get it right. Ms. Truax, we'll leave the next portion up to you, please.
Good evening, Mayor McDonald, members of council. This is the public meeting for consideration of a combined consent and rezoning application, which involves the farm located at 2420 Hickson Road, as well as the properties at 417 and 419 Kent Road 1. Consideration of the application will allow for the expansion of the Taylor Fish operation at 419 Kent Road 1. So Planning Services has received an application to sever a parcel of land from the farm at 2420 Hickson Road and add it to 419 Kent Road 1. The application also seeks to rezone both the proposed severed parcel and the lot at 417 Kent Road 1 to allow the same uses as currently permitted at the Taylor Fish property at 419 Kent Road 1. The application was submitted together with a planning justification report prepared by Jackie Lassaline in support of both the lot addition and the zoning amendment as requested. In considering the application, I felt it would be appropriate to begin with some brief background information on the Taylor Fish operation at 419 Kent Road 1. For reference, 419 Kent Road 1 is the parcel outlined in green on the key map within the report. The Taylor Fish property was created by consent in 2001, at which time it was specifically rezoned to allow storage and repair of fish nets. In 2003, a subsequent zoning amendment was considered to permit packaging, freezing, retailing, processing, and storing of fish products, in addition to the storage and repair of fish nets, and included site-specific zone provisions regarding outdoor storage and buffering on site. The development of this property is subject to a site plan agreement that was approved in 2010. The property currently is approximately 0.85 acres in area. It includes 2 buildings and it has the associated parking areas on site. So that's what's on the Taylor Fish property currently. The first part of the application being considered is the lot addition from the farm at 2420 Hickson Road to Taylor Fish. The parcel of land being added to Taylor Fish from the farm is approximately 1/2 acre in area. It has no frontage on a road, and it is found along the northern property boundary of 419 Kent Road 1. It's shown as the hatched area on the key map within the report, and it's the farm is shown in red on the screen, and the black box is what is proposed to be added to the green parcel. The planning justification report indicates that Taylor Fish is seeking to add lands for parking and stormwater drainage purposes. No new buildings are proposed at this time. The farm property at 2420 Hickson Road is designated agricultural in the OP, and it is zoned A2 under the zoning bylaw. The agricultural land division policies apply when considering the severance. Specifically, lot additions in the areas of prime agricultural land are permitted under the PPS for minor boundary adjustments, which do not result in a new lot. As well, lot additions are permitted under the County of Essex official plan for the same reasons, provided no new residential or non-farm lots are created. And finally, lot additions in the agricultural area are permitted under the local OP, subject to meeting the criteria in section 543. Including, first, that the proposed severed and retained lots comply with the zoning bylaw. In considering this, we note that the farm currently exists as a legal non-complying farm with less than the minimum required lot area, and as such, it's granted relief from that requirement under section 4.35 of the zoning bylaw. As a result of the proposed lot addition, it will be necessary to permit a further decrease to the area of the farm. The second criteria for considering the lot addition requires that the severed parcel merge with the lot at 419 Kent Road 1. This will require a conveyance of a 1 square foot parcel from 419 to the municipality to break the consent stamp as it was given in 2001. And finally, the proposed lot addition shall not result in a new residential lot in the agricultural area, which this doesn't. In addition to the lot creation policies, Council must be satisfied that the lot addition to permit the expansion of a non-agricultural use in the agricultural area, such as Taylor Fish, is consistent with the PPS. So the second part of this application seeks to rezone the severed lands from A2 to A5-29, as well as rezone the residential lot at 417 Kent Road 1, so that's the parcel in blue on the screen. It's looking to go from A5 to A5-29. A5-29 is the current site-specific zoning of Taylor Fish. The Taylor Fish property is also designated agricultural under the OP, and it is zoned to permit a non-conforming use. Section 712 of the OP recognizes that certain uses exist or would have been permitted or have been permitted that don't match the OP. This section of the OP allows for changes to the uses on that property. However, it is silent on what to consider when an expansion is requested. The county OP provides greater direction in the matter, as it specifically contains policies which permit applications for expansions to a non-conforming use when the following criteria are met. The expansion will not significantly increase the size of the non-conforming use. The proposed expansion will not require an adjustment to the land use boundary. The proposed expansion will not increase incompatibilities in the surrounding area, and that consideration has been given to whether the conditions to minimize potential nuisances can be implemented. Finally, the policies of the PPS seek to protect agricultural lands for long-term use of agricultural, agriculturally related, and on-farm diversified uses. The PPS also recognizes that there may be non-farm uses in the ag area and requires that expansions demonstrate the following: that the land is not part of a specialty crop, it complies with the MDS separation from livestock operations, that there is a need for additional lands for this type of use, and that alternative locations have been evaluated. Once again, Council must be satisfied that the applications to rezone the lands in the prime agricultural area to permit the expansion of a non-agricultural use can be justified in accordance with the relevant planning legislation and documents. In consideration of the zoning amendment requested by the applicant, it is administration's position that the application should be amended to include the following to ensure that the applications are consistent with the PPS, County, and Leamington OP for development in the agricultural area. That the consolidated parcels should be rezoned from a site-specific agricultural residential, A5, to a site-specific agricultural restricted A2 for the reasons that have been stated in the report, but most importantly, to eliminate the residential uses that are currently permitted on the Taylor Fish site and to be more indicative of the types of uses permitted in the agricultural area. The zoning amendment should also include a provision to recognize the undersized area of the retained farm at 2420 Hickson Road to ensure that it can continue to be used and building permits can be issued. As part of the consideration of the combined consent and zoning amendment application, administration notes that the current Taylor Fish property is subject to site plan control. Any development of the proposed consolidated lands would be subject to site plan approval. If approved, it is expected that an application will be required to proceed through the site plan control process for the review of the gravel parking lot that was established at the 417 Kent Road 1 property. This review would include stormwater management, entrances onto Kent Road 1, as well as the layout of a parking area. So there is one more activity that occurs on site that should be noted, and that is the operation of a food vehicle at this location. In 2018, Planning Services worked with Legal and Legislative Services to address several concerns received from area residents regarding nuisances created by the food vehicle, most notably parking and sight lines along the road and from driveways. The food vehicle that operates at this location is licensed under the business bylaw and is regulated by the provisions of Appendix G for food vehicles. Food vehicles are not regulated under the zoning bylaw, and the operation of the food vehicle is not part of the applications that are being considered this evening. However, we have noted that site plan control is an effective tool to manage how a property operates, as well ensure that any activity on the property will not further impact the surrounding area and in fact may offer some opportunities for improvements. Council and the public have been provided with information regarding the proposed lot addition and zoning bylaw amendment. The purpose of this meeting is to seek comments from the public, internal departments, and external agencies. At this time, formal comments have been received from IRCA as well as the County of Essex. Each indicates no concerns and note that development permits are required for any work on the subject properties. In closing, there is no recommendation on the applications this evening. Upon hearing from the public, administration will bring forward a recommendation in a further report to Council at a regular meeting for a decision.
Great, thank you, Danielle, appreciate that. Council, do you have any questions of our planner? Councillor Thiessen?
Thank you, Mayor. Danielle, I spoke with one of the residents or one of the neighbors in that area, and a couple of the concerns that they did have, and I believe you have addressed a couple of them here. One is drainage was a main concern. The water will be contained on the property, correct? There will be somebody to make sure that through site plan it won't be draining onto the neighbors.
So we have two processes to ensure that drainage is maintained. The first is the lot addition. So we need to make sure that both properties, the farm and the lot addition, can drain independently. And then the second process is site plan, so that once development occurs and the lot grading and buildings are placed on site, that again, everything drains from the site to a permitted outlet.
Okay. And secondly, parking along the road, the side of the road. Are there no, I don't believe there are any no parking signs there currently. Is that something that can be put up? I realize it's a Kent County road, but is that something that can be done through your department?
So in consideration of the applications, we can reach out to Chatham Kent as well as the County of Essex with regard to that and bring that back as part of the follow-up report.
Okay, Thank you.
Councillor Dunn.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Danielle, you spoke to the parking, and how much increase in the parking are we going to look at here because of them parking on the street? And maybe that's a question for Jackie, but it's just a lot of constituents have inquired about that danger on the road.
So administration has received a draft site plan for the layout of the existing gravel parking area. You can see it just under the number 417 there. This would be for the formalization of it. It appears that an additional 21 parking spaces could be developed as proposed, so that would have to be reviewed, but approximately 21.
Anyone else? Would the agent or the applicant care to speak? And since the applicant isn't here, Jackie, we'll entertain you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. No, I'm sorry, the applicant does provide his apologies. He's over in France at the moment. Thank you. So tonight we're here to discuss Taylor Fish, the requested consent, and the requested rezoning. As Danielle indicated, Taylor Fish is located at 419 County Road 1. Taylor Fish is an existing use. It's existing as a fish processing facility and food producer. The fish processed at the facility are supplied by a local fishing company. And after the fish are processed, the waste is used to feed the minks on the farm located behind the adjacent property. As you can see, you've got on the aerial, you've got the Taylor Fish lands located on the south at 419. B1018 is a lot addition of the vacant lands known as 2420 Hickson Road of approximately 1,700 square meters. The lot addition of 417 Kent County Road 1 is an existing lot that will be merged with 419 Kent Road 1, creating a nice rectangular property. Zoning bylaw amendment number 168 has been requested to change the zoning of the new Taylor Fish lands from the existing agricultural residential A5 back to a more appropriate site-specific A2 zone category. The zoning bylaw amendment will recognize the site-specific dimensions of the newly created lot, the site-specific lot dimensions of the retained farmlands, while keeping the existing uses and the existing A2 zone for the retained farmlands. There are no new buildings that are being proposed on the site. So the legislation and policy context, I'm not going to go into too much detail. Thank you, Danielle, for covering that very clearly. Taylor Fish, an existing fish processing facility, an existing use on an existing parcel. The proposed lot addition and subsequent zoning bylaw amendment will not be allowing for a new use, but rather will assist in providing parking, stormwater management, and other improvements to the site. The PPS supports the consent and the zoning bylaw amendment for technical consent such as what's being proposed when no new lots are being created. The official plan policies also support technical consents, and the zoning bylaw amendment will not result in the creation of a new lot. So in my professional opinion, the applications are consistent with the PPS, do conform with the official plan, and are in compliance with the zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw amendment places the requiring lands in an appropriate A2 agricultural zone, will remove the ability to have a residence on the 419 lands, will ensure the entire lands for Taylor Fish have the same zoning, and will recognize the site-specific dimensions of the retained land. I've provided here, it's hard to see, but a site plan that's in draft format that was submitted with the zoning bylaw amendment application. Councillor Dunn, to speak to your request about the number of parking, you can see on the north portion of the lot, it's proposed to have approximately 21 to 24 parking spaces. The rest of the land are going to be used to accommodate stormwater management with a stormwater management pond at the back end of the property. So the site plan depicts the additional parking, the stormwater management plans, and also shows that no new buildings or additions are being proposed. Site plan agreement will be registered on title, and any changes to the building or to the property will require site plan review at a future date. This is a picture of the property where the lot, you can see just above the car to the right is where the residence was previously located, in the area that we're looking at is 2420 Hickson. So with the stormwater management being addressed in detail on the property, you can see it will help alleviate the flooding that's occurring down in the area. So in conclusion, the applications are consistent with the PPS, conform with the official plan, comply with the comprehensive zoning bylaw, and make sound planning.
Thank you, Jackie. Does council have any questions of Ms. Leslie? Councillor Hammond.
Your Worship, thank you. So Jackie, you and I spoke earlier, but in going through this a number of times over the past week, I mean, in order to simplify things here, so 2420, the existing farmland, is going to remain farmland. We already know it's undersized now by the requirement, but it's going to be a little bit smaller than it was before. Correct?
That's correct.
We're going to do some stormwater, were you going to elaborate on that?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Hammond, yes. The A2 zone will simply stay as an A2, but it'll be site-specific to recognize the undersized provisions.
Which won't allow any future development on that property. Parking has always been a big question. We've heard that from a number of people. So we've addressed the parking as best we can so far. I mean, when you get through to site plan control, for those that don't know, sitting here, site plan control will dictate whether it's going to have lights on it and all of those shrubbery and all of those things. And the parking, again, along the road, to Councillor Tishan's comments, I've heard from a number of the residents down there, and that's their concern. I did go down there once. There was a fundraising fish fry, and the roads were, had a lot of cars parked on, but you can understand, I think that's a once in a long while that's going to happen. But so for general use, we've addressed the parking. The flood control you've addressed, and so I just wanted to simplify those things in my mind, because those are the questions that have been asked time and time again. So, and I think you've done that both between yourself and Danielle, so thank you.
Thank you.
And if there's no one else, we'll go to members of the public. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to this? No one here to speak to this issue at all? Okay, that's great. It's a public meeting, so we won't make a decision tonight. There will be a report from the planner in 2 council meetings from tonight, and then we will make the decision then. Thank you. Moving on to another public meeting, and this is in regards to a proposed road closure of a portion of Parkdale Avenue. And I'm turning that over to you, Ruth.
Thank you. Just for the purposes of the public, the meeting will proceed as I previously read, as this is a public meeting. However, in the case of this road closure, it's not a matter under the Planning Act, so there's no opportunity to appeal to the local planning appeal tribunal. So all the other comments remain. So by way of background, a developer has acquired the property formerly known as 29 Parkdale Avenue, as well as other parcels on Parkdale for the purpose of building 2 multi-residential towers to be renamed as 302 Shirk Street. And in the report provided to council, a rendering of the proposed towers is included as Appendix 1. In order to accommodate the parking requirements, or most of the parking requirements for 302 Shirk, it was proposed that vehicular access to that property be stopped up by means of a new cul-de-sac at the end of Parkdale, and that's shown on the construction plans in the report at Appendix 2. The proposed layout of the development is within in the report, attached as Appendix 3. The creation of the cul-de-sac would then reduce the length of Parkdale and would require a conveyance from the municipality to the developer of certain lands shown in Appendix 4 as Part 2 on that reference plan. At the April 9th meeting, Council provided direction to administration to provide notice of this meeting regarding the proposed closure of that portion of Parkdale so that Council could hear comments from residents regarding this proposal. Notice of the public meeting was hand-delivered directly to those residents on Parkdale, was also advertised in the South Point Sun, and published on the municipality's website. Questions were to be directed to myself, and I did receive some questions from members of the public, in particular some people that lived on Parkdale. The most common I've summarized in the report. The first was inquiring about the development connecting to the new sewers that were just put in on Parkdale. The development will have one connection to the new sewers. The development proposal currently is for 2 residential towers, each with 10 floors, and the sewer connection would be located near the end of Parkdale on the property now known as 29 Parkdale. The cul-de-sac would remain as a dead end. There would not be access to the new development from Parkdale. That access would be from Shirk Street. There was questions regarding the fence that is currently located at the end of Parkdale. And within the site plan agreement, a new fence would be required to be constructed at the end of Parkdale so that there would be no vehicular access, but there would be pedestrian access around that fence. If council approves the closure of the portion of Parkdale, a bylaw to close that portion would be presented to council later in this meeting for consideration. Bylaws to close highways are not effective until they're registered on title at the Land Registry Office. The registration of the bylaw would not take place until the closing of the transaction transferring the lands to the developer was completed. The developer would be required to pay for all costs associated with the closure, including any costs associated with registering the bylaw at the Land Registry Office. So the recommendation within the report is that administration be directed to bring forward a bylaw to close the portion of Parkdale Avenue designated as Part 2 on the plan 27777, and that the Director of Legal and Legislative Services be authorized to cause the registration of the bylaw in the Land Registry Office immediately prior to the registration of any transfer of that portion of Parkdale Avenue, if such transfer is approved by council.
Great, thank you, Ruth. Does council have any questions for Ms. Orton? I see none. Oh, sorry, Councillor Jacobs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ruth, like we're talking a closure, it's, I guess for simplicity's sake, it's really not a street closure, it's just bringing back that cul-de-sac a little bit, like just to simplify this thing.
Yes, it is bringing the cul-de-sac closer to Erie Street. So it is reducing the length of Parkdale.
So moving on to the applicant and their agent, would you like to speak? I have both of you written down here as part of the agenda. Mr. Marsh and Mr. Baird. If you don't mind identifying yourselves.
Hi, my name is Nigel Marsh, and I'm with Canadian Investments Canada, and this is my son who works with me as well.
My name is Baldev Marsh. I'm also
Welcome.
with Canadian Investments Canada.
Great, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Matt Baird with Baird AE.
Did you want to speak to this at all, or are you just open for questions?
Yes, I'd like to say something.
Sure.
So bringing the cul-de-sac forward, it's only to the lands that we currently own. So we have that one house on the right side of Parkdale and then the vacant lots as well. So the impact to current owners would be minimal.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marsh. Council, we'll start with you, Mr. Dunn.
Through you, Madam Mayor. My question, first and foremost, your parking goes in behind some of the properties. Is there going to be fence along the back of those properties? Because it looks like the property actually goes all the way down to Erie Street.
Can you bring up the site plan picture, please? Yeah. And a little bit further down. Is this what you're talking about? So you're talking about on the north side?
Yes.
So on the north side, we plan on, I believe there's an existing fence along the north side of the property. Maybe I'll grab the.
I understand from Councillor Hammond that there is a fence there, but my concern is with the parking back there. I know that goes to site-specific, site control plan. They'll address any noise,
Yeah.
but just to make sure that the fence goes way down. The other question was regarding pathway to Erie Street. Presently, 1 Henry Street, people are walking over and finding access to shoppers. Are you going to have access with people trying to get to Erie Street? How are they going to get access there? Is it going to be through your property?
Correct. There'll be a sidewalk that goes right through our property. It goes right. There's a connection to the cul-de-sac, and we have in our drawings we show a new sidewalk being placed around that cul-de-sac, and any pedestrian traffic can go right to Erie Street.
Through the cul-de-sac and down the street,
Yep.
Parkdale? Okay, that's it for now. Thank you.
Councillor Jacobs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's a couple of questions regarding the construction phase of this project. And I know that Parkdale is a quiet street, and the residents take a lot of pride in that. Are you going to restrict any construction vehicles and apparatus from Parkdale and use the Shirk entrance as proposed for the plan?
Correct. There will be no construction traffic along Parkdale. We don't want any construction traffic going to Erie Street, and I don't believe the municipality would want that either. Typically, haul routes are to the least busy streets. So we would probably take our haul routes through from Shirk, where we have an easement, and they would probably go out to County Road 20. I'm guessing, Seacliff Drive.
Okay, and the reason I ask that is like reading the comments made by the residents currently. I mean, they were out of, I guess, not disposed of, what's the correct word I'm looking for, but anyway, they were inconvenienced for quite a period of time during the construction of that street, and I didn't want to see that happen again, because this project, I'm sure, would take a year or two to get under completion. So if we could keep that traffic off of that street, I'm sure that would ease some of the concern of the residents. Thank you. That's all I have at this time. Thank you.
I have Councillor Wilkinson next.
I had the same question as Councillor Jacobs did, but I think it's important that Matt stresses that there is a legal easement obtained from Shirk Street to the proposed works at the end of this cul-de-sac. I don't know if the rest of the public knows about that or the people who have put in complaints, but there has been a legal easement that has been established from Shirk to proposed works, which would alleviate the traffic, takes the traffic off of Parkdale in order for this construction to happen. I think that's super important to impress upon this group that's here tonight, and I just don't know if that was made known to this group here.
Excuse me, the other thing that we're doing is that we're going to be phasing this into 2 developments. So it'll be phase 1 we're not going to try and do both developments at the same time, so we want to minimize the amount of construction work to not upset, the community. We want to work with the community so that it's as minimized as possible.
And further to that, if somebody wouldn't mind explaining where that easement starts off of Shirk, try and explain how that snakes through to the back, I think that would be helpful as well.
We can provide that to council at a later date, but there is registered easement. I don't know the specifics of it, other than it's along that road that between Shirk and that property. I'm not sure exactly how wide it is, but I believe it's just the road width.
It's a driveway, is it not? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? That's it, gentlemen? Or was it you, Councillor Hammond?
Your Worship, thank you. I'm a little slow in getting my hand up. Yeah, more of a comment than anything else. Yeah, to some of the points that have already been raised, the Parkdale residents, yes, have undergone quite a bit over the last few years, both with the road construction, the new building of Starbucks on the corner, and I think it'll put some of their minds to ease, knowing that that cul-de-sac is going to be established right away, and there won't be any truck traffic going up and down there specifically. To the easement, I had asked Ruth today about whether or not there were any restrictions on that easement with respect to whether it can be just used for cars, light vehicles, and it's my understanding that it's not. It's open to any vehicle or any type of construction equipment going in and out of there. So that will be the lane of choice to get back to the new buildings, and I think it's important that everybody knows that. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Horton would like to speak to the easement for you gentlemen.
The width of the easement is between 24 feet at the entrance to Shirk and 30 feet at its ending, right at the west side of the subject lands, and it really follows what appears to be the driveway on the lands through which it crosses, where there are two apartment buildings. So it's between those two buildings and heads straight back to the development, the lands to be developed.
Thank you, Ruth. Well, if that's it, thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to ask for members of the public that care to speak. So you can go back to your seats if you're okay with that, and we'll see if there's anyone from the public that would like to speak to this with comments, concerns, or questions. Come up. I need you to come up, say your name and your address, please. And I'm just going to say right now, we give you 5 minutes. Don't hate me when I cut you off, but we have to have a policy, and that's how we roll here. Can you turn on push the gray button that says talk? Perfect.
Hi, I'm Teresa DeMena, and I live in Leamington at 149 Antonio. I'm an employee for Skyline that owns 300 and 304 Shirk. My concern now would be the safety with this heavy machinery coming in. We have many tenants that live in that building, many senior tenants, so how are they going to control the safety issues? Because I'm concerned about my tenants.
Matt, feel free to sit up there and answer if you don't mind.
Thank you. Through your worship, we're not at that stage yet, but I'm guessing what we'll do is the contractor, the consultant doesn't choose this, but the contractor is responsible for safety on the site. I'm guessing what they would do is we'd place fencing along the whole easement to keep people out of the easement, out of the road. We'd have probably have to have traffic control of some sort on site so that traffic can move in and out and be directed as required.
Thank you, but I'm not quite understanding. You're going to block off the easement. That is our entrance to our buildings.
Yes, you'll have your entrance to your buildings, and then where there's entrances, actually, there's the entrance off Shirk, that'll be open, and then there's the entrances to the buildings themselves, those will be open as well. So you'll have fencing everywhere else.
There is one entrance, though, off of Shirk coming into the property.
Yes.
I'm not quite understanding. Is there a visual? Like, do you have?
This is actually not a council, we don't have control over that, the municipality, this is on private property. If you want to take it up with Mr. Baird, we have no control over that. There's been an agreement made between the owners and the owner of your buildings, and that's where that needs to be taken up, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay? Is there anything else from us? Okay, thank you, Teresa. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Gentleman over here on my left. Name and address, 5 minutes, if you need 5. Could you press the button that says talk? Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Madam Mayor. My name is Byron Hind. I live at 20 Parkdale, right at the end of the cul-de-sac on the left-hand side. Now, I'm concerned with parking with these 2 buildings going up. Now, if you're going to pull the cul-de-sac back 40 feet, 45 feet, whatever the case may be, that's going to put the circle pretty much right in my front yard, not to mention the houses on the right-hand side. It's going to take pretty much all of their front yard. And we're going to have cars, trucks, what have you, turning around constantly. Now, there's 2 empty lots right beside my house. At the end of the cul-de-sac, there's a fence. Is that fence going to remain where it's at? Or are you going to pull it back towards Erie Street as well, closer to my house? And is there going to be a parking lot beside my house?
Can you
Yeah,
answer
through your
that?
worship. Can you bring up the site plan again, please? How's this working?
While they're figuring this out, I just want to say, when there's conversation, it needs to go through me. It's just a rule. I don't like to be that picky, but we need to have a format, so if you'll remember that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Through your worship. So we plan on shifting the sidewalk, or sorry, shifting the fence down to Erie Street as well. So it'll be along the border of the parking lot, between the parking lot and the cul-de-sac. This would be the new edge of the cul-de-sac, or cul-de-sac location. There'd be a new fence that's placed all the way across here and down here. And this is just a concept site plan, so we're not at the site plan stage quite yet.
Okay, right there at the cul-de-sac, right where you have your little cursor there. Come down towards right there. Now go to your left. There's 2 empty lots right there. My house is right beside those 2 empty lots. What do you plan on putting in those 2 empty lots?
Our proposal is just what we've shown. So the parking is all what is being proposed at this time.
So how much room from my house to a parking lot is there going to be?
Through your worship. Sorry,
That's okay.
12 meters or so. So 30 feet.
So I'm going to have cars parking right beside my house?
Does that not look like green space, Matt, that speckled stuff?
Okay. So,
Probably 30 feet between there. We could place a row of cedars if that's what you like.
Well, the parking lot that's currently there now with the buildings that are there now, from time to time, we get cars with the alarms going off, and they go off until either the alarms get tired of going off or until somebody shuts them off. And that's already a noise concern to me already, because we can hear that, and the parking is on the other side. Now, if you're gonna put a parking lot right beside my house, right where my bedroom is, I mean, I might as well just be sleeping out in the parking lot.
Well, I think there's quite a big buffer there between the parking lot and your property.
Oh, there's 2 empty lots there.
Yes, but if you look there, they see it's all speckled. That looks like green space before it gets to your property line.
So that, no concern of parking there whatsoever.
It doesn't look like it from the site plan.
Okay. Now, I have a twofold question, if you will.
Thank you,
When
Matt.
or if the cul-de-sac does get pulled back, since the arrival of the new coffee shop at the corner on Erie Street, the traffic has increased by at least 25%. And people thinking maybe they can get through down there, well, they speed down the road to the cul-de-sac, whip around through the cul-de-sac, all mad because they can't get through, then they speed back the other way. Now, there's animals, children, people on that road, and these cars are traveling down that road at a very high rate of speed, and it's a dead-end road. So perhaps maybe putting some no parking signs in the cul-de-sac. Say there's nothing there right now, and some of the housings that is there right now, they have people over and they park in the cul-de-sac. Now, if you get 3 or 4 or 5 vehicles parking in that cul-de-sac, there's absolutely no way a vehicle is going to turn in there whatsoever. So perhaps maybe putting no parking signs around the cul-de-sac and down the road so there can be some openness there. And maybe put some sort of an officer, if you will, down there for a while to slow down the traffic. 'Cause I've lived there for quite some time, and with the increase of traffic, people are going faster and faster up and down that road. And it's just a matter of time before something happens.
Yeah, we can appreciate that. It seems to be prevalent everywhere. I don't know what the solution is, but there are 2 of us that sit on the Police Services Board, and we can certainly bring that to the notification of the police. I don't know can we give direction? Can we make a suggestion about signage? Is that something that we can take a note of? Ruth, our solicitor.
There are going to be some no exit signs erected at the Erie Street and Parkdale intersection, and then also a no exit sign on Parkdale west of the Starbucks, so that persons who are leaving the Starbucks know that they can't exit down Parkdale. They have to exit onto Erie. And also, we'll take a look at the no parking provisions in that cul-de-sac too.
There is a small sign at the very beginning of Parkdale. It's only about this big. It says no exit. Now, I'm sure that it gets missed a lot, so maybe some appropriate signage. So
Duly
just,
noted.
well, for,
Yeah.
the neighborhood safety.
Sure. I would suggest too, calling the police every time it happens.
Madam Mayor, I'd be on that phone 24/7 with the amount of traffic that's going through there.
Well,
And the rate of speed that these people are traveling up and down that small little road.
Yeah.
They'd be long gone before I even got a hold of anybody.
Even if you can get a couple of numbers, license numbers, but we will make a note and have it brought forward at the next Police Services Board meeting, which is at the end of the month. We'll be sure and mention that as well, that it's a spot that they need to pay attention to.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you.
No, thank you, appreciate it.
your time.
Yes. Counselor Thiessen has a comment.
I'm just wondering if you'd be able to talk to Mr. Barrett about the type of fencing or the trees that go up along that property line. That may help some of your concerns about the parking lot. But that's something that could be done between planning and, yeah,
Be addressed in the site plan then.
yeah.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Take the gentleman that got, okay, we'll do the lady first then. I was going for hand up first, but we'll recognize the female. Come on up. Absolutely. Again, name, address, 5 minutes. Okay, we'll listen fast.
My name's Janet Reed. This is my husband David. We reside at 21 Parkdale with our Yorkie. From the blueprints, what I've seen, if they're bringing in the end of Parkdale 40 feet, it will end up the widest part of the new cul-de-sac will be directly in front of our house. It appears to me, since our driveway is on the west side, we'll have no access to it. I'm questioning, what do I do with my car? How do I get it? How do I have access to my house? That's one issue. My husband works midnights and attempts to sleep during the day. We went through construction last summer and we made it, but because of the size of the present cul-de-sac, we lost our white picket fence around our property. We had to have our Japanese maple moved to the opposite side of the yard. I don't understand if this is going to cut in much more. I don't think so. I don't understand if we're going to have a sidewalk that goes all around the circumference of the cul-de-sac, the new one. But I'm concerned about how I'm going to have access to my front door, let alone where do I park my car and keep an eye on it.
Okay, thank you, Janet. Is there someone in admin that can speak to that? Rob, is that something you can speak to?
I think Matt can speak to
Oh,
it.
Matt.
Being closest and using the pointer, can identify where the entrance to that residence is.
My understanding at 21, we're going to be the last house because the following 3 will be torn down.
Yes, we can see that on the map here.
Through your worship, yeah, so this is 21 right here, my cursor is, and your driveway is, I believe, right in here. So we had placed a new driveway up to the property line at that location for the cul-de-sac. So it would be a little bit of like a little angle going into your driveway.
And I understand that, but I'm asking during construction, how do I have access to my car? What do I do with it? I don't, I want to be able to keep an eye. I get it broke into sitting beside the house, you know. I don't want to park it down the street and.
Well, the phasing of construction hasn't been finalized and how it all unfold, but I'm guessing, I'm just taking a guess here, we might be able to, we're going to start construction. The first phase of the construction will involve the cul-de-sac relocation.
And when are you expecting that to start?
A year, maybe 2 years away. Not this year. Definitely not this year.
Okay.
Okay?
And
So
how
then,
long do you expect that portion of the work to take? Excuse me. Once it's begun, how long do you expect that portion of the job to take?
the cul-de-sac itself?
Yes.
2 weeks.
It's not clear to me from this picture whether the sidewalk will be all the way around the cul-de-sac or not.
Yes.
If it is, then that's going to take a chunk of our front yard.
Through your worship, the sidewalk does go all the way around the cul-de-sac. That was requested by administration. But it's all within municipal right-of-way too.
Okay. The one thing I would like to point out, this photograph that this is based on was taken before the sewer separation and the street improvement work that was done in 2017. So it's not accurate compared to what exists there now.
Correct. This is, through your worship, this is the most up-to-date aerial photos available.
You can see our picket fence in front of our house there, and we took that down when the last
We were
construction
forced
was done. We had to.
I thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, see?
Good
I'm still
evening.
asleep. My questions are very quick.
I just need your name and your address, please.
Peter Frederick. I live at 17 Parkdale.
Okay.
My problems are very simple. I'm worried about the car noise. I'm worried about the blocking of the sunlight through the apartments. And also I want to know how many units per floor, and I want to make sure that the sewer can handle it. And and how much do we have to pay, how much does the building has to pay per apartment to hook up? Or is that confidential?
I can address the issue related to the sewer. As I indicated, the sewer did account for this development when it was constructed. So to answer your question very simply, yes, the sewer can handle a residential development of this nature at this property. It is public information as to what the assessment was in relation to the lands owned by Canadian Investments. And it was in keeping with the assessments for the other residential developments along Parkdale because it was assessed on a frontage basis. So the total assessed to Canadian Investments was approximately $42,500.
Now, I'm saying, you mean with the apartments finished, it's only 40,000 or finished apartments?
That's to the property owner.
Or just the only property? How about the hookup for the apartments of the units?
Oh, that's a private matter. So this is in connection with the
Okay.
sewer construction.
Okay, now, as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to know, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's a bad deal. I think if this has shortened down the stories, because the parking, I think is gonna snowball. We'll have less light. We're gonna have more, let's say, noise, more people, and we're gonna have a little more problems. That's as far as I'm concerned, and I'd like to know if the council themselves, would they vote for closing the cul-de-sac? Because I'm asking you a quick question. Is it right to assume that you're thinking about it, or is it a done deal?
Council is considering the report this evening. There is a recommendation. They have not yet made a decision as to the closure of Parkdale. That's what they're being asked to do this evening.
Okay, I'm asking, I won't be there again possibly. I'm asking you point blank, as a council, will you say yes or no to the council? Sorry, I had a stroke. Are you agreeable to getting rid of the cul-de-sac?
We'll be taking a vote at the end of this report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think, is the gentleman saying to get rid of the cul-de-sac and like remove it altogether? Was that his intention?
I'm not sure he's understanding what we're doing this evening about the closing of the cul-de-sac. We're still, the cul-de-sac will still stay, it's just not in the same form.
I know, but I'm just saying, does he want to eliminate a cul-de-sac? I guess that's what I was...
Mr. Frederick? So when you're asking what council's going to do,
You should leave it as it is. Because it could cause problems, too much parking, too much noise, and it's too much, let's say, for the land to take care of two big apartments.
if you want to speak, you're welcome to come up, tell us your name and your address, that's fine, this is a public meeting. It's on.
They're going to move that hydro pole that they put up, and they're going to move it closer to the sidewalk, almost right on my front lawn. So I'm gonna lose half my front lawn, plus I'm gonna lose half my driveway from that turnaround. Like I say, just leave it as it
And what's
is.
your name?
Colleen Blaine,
And what's your address, Colleen?
19 Parkdale.
Okay.
I'm gonna lose half my driveway. I said leave it as it is.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to speak to that, Matt, at all, about that driveway on number